Hello, everybody, and welcome to Impact Leadership. I am so glad you tuned in today. I'm Brother Jackie, and I'm your host for the next few minutes with Impact Leadership. Somebody talked to me not long ago. They said, Brother Jackie, let's talk about leadership disaster. Now, that's not normally something I like to discuss, but it got my mind to thinking, what is it that causes leadership disaster? And so I want to kind of map out a few things for you. And I wrote down a few little nuggets that I thought this would be a great talk to motivate you. I hope that will encourage you to not be a leadership disaster. We all know them. We've seen it happen time and time again. But I'm a firm believer that a leadership disaster is not an event that takes place, but it's a process that happens. In other words, it's leadership disaster happens over a period of time. And one of the sure tell signs of a leadership disaster, number one, is laziness. You know, when you think about laziness in a leadership, that is a sure sign of a coming disaster. When people disengage and they get lazy and they've lost their umph about their leadership and they're not on task and they get lazy. You see, I'm a firm believer that leadership is not all about your salary that you make, but it's about the influence that you contribute. And so many people have gotten lazy in their creativeness and lazy in their energy and lazy in their accomplishment. And when I see a leader get lazy, I think to myself, they're headed toward a disaster. And that's exactly what happens. If you're a leader that's lazy, you're going to have a leadership disaster. And I hope that I can talk you out of that. So you don't need to be lazy. Number two is bad planning. If you are a bad planner in leadership, you're headed toward a disaster. And I put down three things that I think that you need to think about in bad planning. The first one is poor planning. If you're a poor planner, you're going to be a disaster in leadership. So that's important to know. The second one is postponed planning. You know, there's a lot of people that wait till the last minute, pull their plan together. That's a sure leadership disaster. And then number three is panic planning. You know, you're up on the edge of the deadline and you go into panic mode. And that's a leadership disaster. Look, everybody can see that. Everybody recognizes whether you're prepared or not. And if you're a bad planner, you're going to end up as a leadership disaster. And then thirdly, poor communication. If you don't know how to communicate, you're setting yourself up for a leadership disaster. We say it all the time around us, no communication is failure. Little communication is frustration. If you don't communicate at all, you're just going to flat out be a leadership failure. If you just communicate a little bit, you're just ticking everybody off because you're not giving them enough information. So you've got to realize poor communication is setting you up for a leadership disaster. And then number four, don't get mad at me, but I believe this is true. Clutter is a leadership disaster. You know, when you look around yourself, and you clutter your desk and clutter your office, and there's junk everywhere and paper everywhere, and there's no focus, there's no it's a mess. I'm telling you, clutter is a hazard, and clutter sends the message of confusion and crisis. If you are cluttered all the time, you're headed toward a leadership disaster. I mean, think about it. What kind of message you're sending to everybody? Can't do that. You'll end up as a disaster. And then poor meetings is a sure sign that you're headed toward a leadership disaster. What's your meetings look like? Do you communicate well? Is there a purpose in it? Are you accomplishing it? Do you stay on task? Is there an agenda that you follow? Have you given it any thought? If you're a poor leader in meetings, you're headed toward a leadership disaster. And then, next one, bad attitude. If you've got a bad attitude as a leader, I promise you, you're going to end up as a leadership disaster. You see, I've said it a million times, attitude determines altitude. If you've got a bad attitude, you're sinking. And attitude is something that you control. Everybody else can control everything else, but you control your attitude. If you got a bad attitude, you're headed toward a leadership disaster. And then seventh and finally, inconsistent mood swings is a sure sign of a leadership disaster. If you are the type person that you're on the mountain today and you're in the valley tomorrow, and today everything's wonderful, tomorrow everything's awful, and you're in a good mood today and you're in a bad mood tomorrow, or you're in a good mood this hour and the next, and no, people are going, well, it depends on what mood they're in. That is not good. Mood swings, inconsistent mood swings in leadership is a sure sign of a leadership disaster. So let me go over it with you one more time. Laziness, bad planning, poor communication, clutter, poor meetings, bad attitude, and inconsistent mood swings, sure sign for leadership disaster. Remember the 5 P's. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. And I want you to embrace that. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready. You've got to set the pace. You're the leader. Hey, listen, I look forward to seeing you next week at the same time with JC Impact Leadership. Go check us out at jcimpact.org. Tell all your buddies and all your friends to check us out. I hope that I'm encouraging you in your leadership because I believe in you. See you next time. God bless you.